Back to the graveyard, that means with you! So, this week we opened with... Damn, Nyatra has been eating his frosted flakes. No, of course, our heroines were at the zoo checking out the tiger's den. They ended up getting a little lecture about these big kitties from this boy named Kota, who was one of those kids, who had to show off their knowledge about animals, like how this kitty might be related to a cat-eared android. And his knowledge might have been the result of the fact that his dad was a teacher, in fact, the Precure's teacher, Maruyama, you know, the dude who might have to take a chill pill when it comes to his students, which would actually play a little into things later. But first, we got some more previews for Miracle Leaf, because Toei really needs to make a profit off of this film in the current economy. Well, considering how Demon Slayer did, y'all do have better chances than at least Tenant. Back with the Precure, they let the kid, who was familiar with the zoo, lead them around. It wouldn't be the most straightforward task, as Kota pointed out, they all picked different animals they wanted to see, and that their characters didn't seem to match up as a result. This confused him as to how they were even able to get along. Hey, could be worse, kid. At least they're not a Marvel superhero team. For Kota though, he was having a little tiff with a close friend of his because of differing personalities. More on that in a bit, but first the Precure checked out a few of the animals, including a reminder of a video game series that sadly has gone off the rail, Sam the Eagle's cousin, and some possible interspecies romance. Seriously, the hard eyes are a little much there, Nyatran. Kota was of course confused as to how these girls could enjoy their differing preferences. This was further exacerbated when he ran into his friend Shuichi, and we learned the reason they were fighting was over an argument on which feline was stronger, a lion or a tiger. Oh come on, that's so not the kind of fight little boys would have. Okay, it kind of totally is. I mean, yeah, it's still a stupid fight, but let's admit it, we've all had these exact sort of arguments when we were kids too. Meanwhile, in the Byogen Kingdom, the Terra Byogans were giving their progress reports, and in an entertaining, and yet also very plot-significant point, the king completely ignored Shindoinen. Understandable, considering since the introduction of the Megapart, she's only been the villain in 2 episodes, one of which could barely be counted as an episode. It's actually a pretty clever usage of a character that has been legitimately ignored in the show. Back with Precure, to clear Kota's head a little, they decided to have some lunch. Each of the girls got some tasty looking meals like pizzas, omelets, and... okay, Cure OP is kind of winning me over. Though does she realize how many cows had to die for that sandwich? Well, I don't think she minded, and in fact, she didn't even share her burger when they exchanged foods and only shared her small plate of fries. Again, this girl slowly winning me over. But yeah, this also let Maruyama-sensei point out how their literal different tastes were able to let them experience things that they wouldn't be able to otherwise, kind of like what Kota could be doing with Shuichi right now. I think when a lot of us saw the title of this episode, we were expecting this team to have like some kind of big fight that would break them up for an episode, and yeah, that might have led to some decent drama, but you know what? This wasn't a bad alternative either. I mean, we've already had 2 episodes with a couple of our main characters having a disagreement over something, so I don't think we really need to do that again, and it's never a bad idea just to have these superheroines be plain old role models for the kids, especially now that we're in the 30s of the show. Yeah, it's not the most exciting plot, but that's kind of what this week's subplots are for. Speaking of which, Daisen had arrived and launched an attack using some aloe as a catalyst. Oh, what a waste of some perfectly good, overpriced beauty products. The Precure went to fight it, while the Maruyamas helped to evacuate the zoo. Of course, Junior ran to Shuichi, helped him escape, and they made up. Again, nothing too great about this week's main plot, but the message of how people with opposite tastes can come together is a decent message, so it's fine. Also, I'm just noticing, but these boys are wearing red and blue respectively. Real solid there, guys. Back with the Precure, we got a genuinely good fight this week. I mean, the animation wasn't outstanding or anything, but it was well laid out, with even Daisen getting involved and very wisely cutting off Asumi before engaging his former host in this really cool shot. Again, while they're still kind of reminding me of a certain Kamen Rider rivalry, the sheer amount of grudge these two hold for each other is selling me on this blood feud. During all this, Shindoinen was pondering what she could do that her associates hadn't tried yet, and figured that she could put a mega part into herself. Okay, so this is going to lead to her transforming into some sort of one-winged angel form, as well as her swift defeat. We've all seen Hakuto, so we know exactly what's coming up. Mamie? Okay, sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. There was still this week's fight to conclude. Of course, Asumi was the one to stun the monster with her new elemental bottle and everything, though again, the original trio at least landed the finishing blow. Not that this made any difference to Daisen, as he didn't use any mega parts on the monster, and in fact, only wanted to literally farm some off of his plant monster. Thus, he actually managed to leave satisfied having completed his main objective. And this is when the powered up Shindoinen decided to go young. Fortunately for her, she ended up paying the father instead, ending this episode on a big cliffhanger. You know, I think one of the biggest criticisms we've had against this season so far was how the villains have been more than a little unremarkable. Oh boy, are they starting to make a comeback. Because while the main plot of this episode was just okay, the baddies are really starting to build some momentum, and I am enjoying the ride. When you get down to it, this was an episode where the villains, for the most part, won across the board. Obviously, there was the stuff with Shindoinen, but Daisen also managed to farm 8 megaparts without even using one this time, likely due to the fact they let the fight drag on. Not that it bothered us, because overall, this was a good fight this week, again, in spite of not being a Sakuga fest, which actually looks like they're saving that for next week. Heck, even if the animation were bad, we still got this really well-directed scene of the two main rivals of the show exchanging some intense stares. But of course, this was also a great new start for Shindoinen. Now, of course, her powering up is no guarantee she'll survive the debut of the new power-up, but if history has shown us anything, humanoid power-ups tend to last pretty long into the series, and it's really only once they enter into their monstrous forms that they've pretty much signed their death waiver. Besides, they gave her a new stock animation, so I think they'll at least try to give her some mileage out of that. But yeah, while the villains upped their game, the main plot here was nothing special at all. Just a typical lesson of the day about getting along with your friends, told in not the most subtle of ways. I think they might have spelled it out too much, with Kota constantly pointing out how the Precure are all different from one another. But it did stop, so I can't complain that much. And again, considering the fact that we're likely going to get a lengthy fight scene next week, a mundane lesson of the day episode was a bit of a fair price to pay. Last week, I got a surprisingly good response for that sort of offhanded comment I made about doing a video where I discussed what I think makes for a good pink lead, which, yeah, I guess I will make that video now, though not right now, as I do have a couple of other things on my platter. Still, I do think it'll make for a good bridge into my next Precure series review, so look forward to it maybe December or early into 2021. If anything, it can certainly act as a palate cleanser for 2020, so look forward to all of that. And until then though, for now my friends, and as for the debate of which cat is stronger, I have the answer. They're better together, plus we're a cheetah. Enjoy having that jingle stuck in your head for the next few weeks.